What's up, gaming fans? Welcome back to another episode of The Lost Games. Here we bring you info on those lost gems. Today's series, Pac-Man World. This video was requested by Super Mario fan 123311, a dedicated fan of today's series. Also, a shout out goes to Miles Games DA and Namco for being the inspiration on the video image. Are you too young to know about Pac-Man? Of course not. But before we even begin to speak about Pac-Man World, and in case you have been living under a rock, Pac-Man is a 1980s maze action video game and mascot of Bandai Namco Entertainment. Originally named Puck-Man, it was later changed to Pac-Man to avoid trolls putting the letter F over the P in the arcades and damaging the game's reputation. But that would mean that everyone would have been calling Pac-Man Fuck, man. That would have been a disaster. Anyway, yes, Pac-Man is essentially a maze runner who originated in the arcade era, and the main character Pac-Man has become a huge success still to this day. The name and game is known just as much, if not more, as other famous names like Mario, Pikachu, Mega Man, Sonic, Donkey Kong, Zelda.
I am not Zelda! I am Link! Why will you not understand that my name is Link?
Yeah, sorry about that, Link. The development started in 1979 and it was directed by Toru Iwatani with a 9-man team. So, in case you ever think that you and your friends are crazy for attempting to make a game, use this as inspiration. In fact, the main character design was inspired by a pizza slice removed from an entire pizza. Although, Iwatani did also state that it was also him rounding out the Japanese character for mouth. The original name Puck-Man was derived from the hockey puck shape that the main character has. The characters were all meant to be colorful to appeal to both men and women, as they were mostly war games at that time. Pac-Man has generated over $14 billion in revenue. It has a hit song and 2 television series. With all this being said, a large amount of Pac-Man games have been released, but this time around, we will only be talking specifically about the Pac-Man World series. The first Pac-Man World game was released in 1999 for the PlayStation and the Game Boy Advance by Namco Home Tech. Pac-Man World was created to celebrate Pac-Man's 20th anniversary. What set this game apart is that it was the first 3D platformer. The main story is about the protagonist Pac-Man arriving home on his 20th birthday to find out that his family and friends have been kidnapped by Talkman, the main antagonist. This game had 3 game modes: Quest Mode, Maze Mode, and Classic Mode. The Game Boy Advance version only had Quest Mode and only had 12 levels, while the PlayStation had 23 levels. For the Quest Mode, Pac-Man defeats enemies, solves puzzles, and collects items like most games, staying essential to its main goal of getting a token at the end of the stage, which completes the mission. You will run into doors, switches, and treasure chests on your journey, along with underwater segments where Pac-Man has to swim. Each level has a letter collection, allowing you to collect each letter in the name Pac-Man, similar to what skaters in Tony Hawk had to do. Pac-Man can run, jump, and eat, but he also had cool moves like the butt bounce, where you bounce like a ball to defeat enemies. The rev roll move allowed you to charge up to perform a quick roll. Or pellet shoots, which allow you to shoot one of the dots that you have collected. If held down for a few seconds, you can also perform a super pellet shoot, which deals more damage and uses 10 dots. There's also a key in each level that allows you to release a caged friend. Mazes mode is a collection of mazes that have Pac-Man collecting dots and avoiding ghosts, just like the original game. You start with 3 already unlocked stages and continue unlocking them as you complete them. If you do complete all of them, you can unlock Marathon Mode, which have you play all 36 mazes back to back. And if you complete that mode, then you can unlock a hidden art gallery containing concept art of the game. Classic Mode is the original Pac-Man game ported. The game was also re-released for the PlayStation 3, PSP, and PS Vita. Here's some bonus facts about Pac-Man World 1. The Game Boy Advance version of Pac-Man World also had a 2-in-1 cartridge bundle with Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness that had glitches that were not found on the single cartridge of each game. Pac-Man World was initially titled Pac-Man 3D. Originally, Pac-Man was supposed to save other Namco characters, and Pac-Man World was supposed to have been released for the Nintendo 64, Sega Dreamcast, and the PC. Speaking of PC, the game did also release exclusively in South Korea for the PC in 2001, and it was named Pac-Man, but it was spelled with a K. In comes Pac-Man World 2, again by Namco Home Tech, released for PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox, Game Boy Advance, and Windows PC. This time around, you must get back the golden fruit and defeat Spooky, an old ghost who was imprisoned under a tree by Sir Pac-A-Lot. The game is played just like the original with 25 game levels and 16 unlockable mazes by collecting Galaxian flagships that appear throughout the levels. Unlike the first game, you only have to collect the Galaxian without needing to also open a door. Collecting them will transport Pac-Man into a 3D dimension maze-like classic arcade game. You also still had the same previous battle moves with a new one added called Flip Kick. This would allow you to kick mid-air. We also have Sue's arcade mode, where you will find 6 arcade machines that can be played after collecting the tokens necessary throughout the game. Just like the first game, Namco later released a Game Boy Advance version of Pac-Man World 2. It was a 2D platformer that still had some 3D features. The levels are long, and oddly, it did not have a save feature, but instead a password system like the older 90s games. The Game Boy Advance version unfortunately suffered from a lot of issues and glitches and did not have any extra arcade games. Pac-Man World 2 for consoles sold over 2 million copies, making it the 3rd best-selling Pac-Man series for consoles. Next up, we have Pac-Man World 3, released in 2005, celebrating Pac-Man's 25th anniversary. The console versions of this game were developed by Blitz Games. Blitz Games are the developers behind these games. Meanwhile, the Nintendo DS version was developed by Humansoft, who developed games like these. This time around, the game puts more focus on fighting, turning it into a beat-em-up style game. Changes to the fighting include limiting the butt bounce to 3 uses with a shockwave blast on the 3rd use. The flip kick from Pac-Man World 2 was replaced with punching. There's 4 playable characters that include Pac-Man, Pinky, Blinky, and Talkman. In this story, a character named Orson transports you and explains that an enemy named Irwin is attempting to destroy Pac-Land. Pac-Man World 3 was released for GameCube, PlayStation 2, Xbox, PSP, Nintendo DS, and PC. It was originally named Pac-Man World 3, The Elixir of Life, but was then shortened. Pac-Man World 3 ended up being the final result of a cancelled Pac-Man game called Pac-Man Adventures. Animator Don Bluth had published several storyboards that he created for that cancelled game, which were then used for Pac-Man World 3. When Pac-Man World Adventures was cancelled, Namco had hired Blitz Games to work on Pac-Man World 3, but the problem was, as the game was being developed, Namco of Japan and Bandai were in the works for a merger. This merger caused Namco to cancel practically all Pac-Man games for release in 2005 and 2006. However, Blitz Games convinced Namco to allow them to continue production as they were already dedicated and were far in development. Namco allegedly provided no additional funding and demanded that the game be released in 2005. Unfortunately, this caused the game to be rushed, and we all know what happens to rushed games as they tend to be incomplete due to deadlines. This game was no exception, as there were features that had to be removed, which included the ability to collect and hold power pellets that can be used at any time. It also had power smoothies, a shop where Pac-Man could buy items, and even more levels. And there was also a Game Boy Advance version of Pac-Man World 3 being planned, but was also cancelled. We then have Pac-Man World Rally released in 2006 for PlayStation 2, GameCube, PSP, and PC. Pac-Man World Rally, or Pac-Man Rally in Europe, now published by Namco Bandai, was developed by Smart Bomb, who have worked on games like these. This game is essentially a Mario Kart / Crash Team Racing type game with Pac-Man characters. The unique part about Pac-Man World Rally is that it brought mechanics that Pac-Man has. For example, the player collects dots and fills up the Pac meter that will allow you to turn into Pac Mobile and eat your opponents for a limited amount of time. And just like the other kart racer games, you can also get power-ups by running into Pac boxes. Lastly, a sequel named Pac-Man Kart Rally was released for the iOS in 2010 and Android in 2012. It's actually been taken off the digital stores since 2018. Pac-Man Kart Rally actually had a bunch of features and even achievements, but it was not well received. This would turn out to be the last time we got to see a playable Pac-Man World game. So what happened? Well, between 2009 and 2010, there was a development being done on Pac-Man World 4. The actual name would have been Pac-Man World, so this could be a remake, a reboot, or maybe the first part of the name for the game. First, this game was never actually officially announced, but 2 short gameplay videos were released by Atsushi Saito, who worked on Pac-Man Party. He posted this on his website. And there was also 2 pieces of concept art shown by former Namco employee Tim Tao. In fact, Tim Tao's work is where the name Pac-Man World was shown. Sadly, this was one of many cancelled Pac-Man games, and there has not been any news on why for a while now. In fact, the closest thing to Pac-Man World after 2010 were 2 games named Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures 1 and 2 released in 2013 based on the TV show of the same name. It has never actually been officially associated with the Pac-Man World series, but then again, the name of these games in Japan are Pac World 1 and 2, and they share some of the characters just like the Pac-Man World series. The games are also 3D platformers. In these games, the main character is Paxter, who is a version of Pac-Man specific to the Ghostly Adventures game and TV series. Obviously, this is not related to Pac-Man World, but it gave fans a chance to think of it as such for a moment. In the end, fans are still waiting for another Pac-Man World game. I also personally wrote to Namco Bandai and they have not gotten back to me about the series either, but I will update you guys if they do. But what do you guys think? Is Pac-Man World series a series that's worth a revival? This is it for today's episode, but don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this on GameCircleTv. And yes, we may have lost these games, but we can never lose the love and the happiness and the experience we gain from them. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you again next time.